New York, it's terrible that all I know of New York is just Manhattan. Okay. Well, I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is where God lives and home of the Panthers. And over the next 15 or 20 minutes, guys, all I intend to do is tell you my personal experience with this business, this industry, um, and maybe give you some insight as to what the Equis opportunity can do for you. And so I know it's 9 o'clock. It's a late night webinar, but my hope is that when I get done today, that you'll have a clear understanding, or at least a clearer understanding of how you can take this opportunity and apply it to your life and accomplish whatever goals financially, or maybe it's not a financial goal. Maybe it's going to replace some type of aspect of your current career or job that you're looking to replace or improve. So real quick, my bio, my short story is I am from Miami, Florida, born and raised. Go Canes. This is the U for Miami Hurricanes, for those of you that follow football. And went to high school in a small town suburb outside of Los Angeles. And I went to college in Atlanta on a football scholarship, played quarterback for a couple of years. And I got out of school. That's another way to say I dropped out of college. I got out. Anyway, so I dropped out of college after my sophomore year. And about a year later, I got my insurance license. And that was roughly almost 18 years ago. So this is all that I've ever done. So for people that ever wonder, is it scary on commission? I wouldn't know. I've never really done it any other way. So all I can tell you is that the only thing I regret about getting started in this industry 18 years ago is that I wish I would have done it at the age of 18 instead of 21. So with that, there's really three main points or things that I like to convey at this stage of your introduction to the company that I think are relevant. Now, clearly, there's a ton more that we could discuss over the course of an hour or 2 hours. And if we have time, Brad, at the end, I'm fine taking a few questions. So you just let me know if we're good on time. I know that we've got some training to do afterward. But I look at our business, and I'll say this too. When I got out of college, you say, well, why did you choose insurance? Number one, I was looking for anything that did not come with a boss. I was one of those kids that I just didn't do well with authority. I've gotten somewhat sophisticated in my older age, so I'm a little bit better now, but I loved the idea of leadership. I loved the concept of mentorship. I loved coaches, so leadership, mentorship, coaching, that was different than boss or even manager in the work world. Not that I saw a lot of it, but I knew enough adults in high school and college that were unhappy to realize that the norm just didn't work for me. And if you guys have ever heard my mentor, John Kight, talk about it, simply I wasn't necessarily the guy that knew what he wanted. I just knew more about what I did not want in life. And so I was willing to bet on me. And so when I was introduced to the industry, I realized that there really weren't bosses, that there were mentors, there were leaders, there were coaches, and that was the environment that I felt comfortable in. And so that was a big part of it. Secondly, I didn't really want to have a limit or a cap on my income. I had obviously family, parents that worked jobs where they would complain that they worked harder than the guy next to them or the person that worked next to them, and but their incomes were the same. And I always believed that if I worked harder and produced more, that I should be paid for it. No different than playing football for, since I was 5 years old all the way through college and 1 year semi-pro. I felt that if I was the better guy on the field to lead my team, then I should get the snaps, I should get the reps, I should be able to play and start. And so I didn't like the politics, that came along with it, and I didn't want to see that in my career. So for me, it was I didn't want to have a boss telling me what time I could leave to go to lunch, what time I had to be there. I wanted freedom. I love leadership. I love mentorship. I love coaching. Secondly, I didn't want to have a limit on my income. If I realized that as I got older, that the price and the cost of things, everyday needs got bigger and bigger and cost more and more. And there was obviously some seeds planted at a young age that I realized that if I was going to be successful in life, I had to be in control of the amount of money that I made for my family. And if I needed to go out and work harder to make more money, I wanted to be able to do that. Not that money is the most important thing in the world, but of course we know that it, purchases and buys, conveniences and things that we need and such. So those were the two main factors for me. And then of course, just having time and flexibility and something that I could grow in. That's one of the things about sports that I love is that every week in practice, you could work harder and get better. So your skill set at the beginning of the season was not going to be, it should not have been rather, it wasn't going to be my skill set by the end of the season. And I knew that, my freshman year in high school, if I worked really, really, really hard, that by the time I graduated, as long as I worked, and practiced and developed and went to, to film study and things like that, that I could improve as a player. And so I just wanted something that if I was willing to put the work in, that I could get better at what I did for a living, and my income would reflect my work ethic and my improvement. And so there really wasn't a lot of ways that I saw to do it. I thought possibly, I'd get involved in the car business. I thought maybe I would do mortgages or maybe real estate, something along those lines. But I interviewed with a company in 2001, and a buddy of mine got me that interview. And my very first week, Brad, I think I made about $1,800. And I just turned 21, and I knew that I was going to get rich. I mean, that was who makes $1,800 in a week legally. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I saw other guys that were making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year. And I said to myself, if these guys can do it, I can do it. So that's kind of my story, how I got started. And so with Equis Financial, three things or three different lanes or people that I speak to that over the last 17, 18 years, people tend to fall in one of these three categories. And so over the next 15 minutes, if you find that none of the things that I say from here on out connect to you, then it probably isn't a fit, and that's okay. But the one that I will mention getting started is over the course of my career, I've spoken to and I've interviewed and I've met with a lot of really talented people, a lot of accomplished people as well. So if you're sitting up, if you're watching this and, first of all, if you graduated college, I admire that because I couldn't take it. I couldn't do it. But that's a huge accomplishment. I'm sure you've got a ton of professional accomplishments just right now on this Zoom meeting that, in most industries and in most cases, I mean, round of applause and recognition and acknowledgement. And what happens is a lot of times those don't necessarily translate into a healthy financial lifestyle. A buddy of mine is a school teacher, and my hat goes off to him. He works really hard doing what he does, but he struggles financially because it just doesn't pay well. And so that first category that I'm speaking of is someone that loves maybe what they do, feels passionate about what they do, feels a sense of calling about what they do, but is not necessarily, satisfied with the amount of money that profession or career or, calling pays. And so over the years, I've hired and trained a lot of part-time people that use our system to create an additional stream of income to offset what they're not making at their job. One story that comes to mind, and if this is you, I'm telling you, it is so real and so true, and so available to you. There's a woman that that worked with my agency for about 4 years, roughly, in Atlanta. This was back in 2000 and I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10. She came into my office and she was in her, I think, late 40s at the time. And, you know, she said that she saw me online, she found us online, and you know, she wanted to know if she could, you know, accomplish her goals within our system, because she read something about part-time, make some extra money, etc. And so I asked her, I said, well, tell me a little bit about what your goals are. Now, this is a true story, and it's one of my favorite stories to tell. And you'll see why in a second. So she says to me, Chris, she says, I've got, she's late 40s, and at the time she was a full-time director for the Girl Scouts. I forget what the exact title was, but she worked for the Girl Scouts, making about $55,000 a year. And she was a single mom of 2 kids. She had a son that was a senior in high school and a daughter that was a freshman in college. So 18, 19 years old. And she said that she didn't want her children to have to take out loans for college. So her goal and what she desired to do was to be able to make enough money part-time that she could pay for her kids' college education. Now, I was raised by a single mom, so she had me at hello, right? So this woman, her name is Shirley, this woman in her very first year with the agency made $40,000. Listen to this. And she only worked on Saturdays. She worked her Monday through Friday job for the Girl Scouts. In her first year on a part-time basis, she made $40,000 working Saturdays. She would get off of work on Thursday night and she would get her leads and she would book appointments for Saturday, maybe for about an hour from like 6 to 7. And then if she didn't have her 8 appointments that she wanted, that was her goal every week. If she didn't have her 8, then on Friday at lunchtime at her job, she would eat while she was booking her appointments for Saturday. Incredible, right? And then she would work her 8 appointments on Saturday, and she would make on average about $3,500 a month just doing that schedule. And I want to say it was probably about maybe the middle of her second year that she said, she did the math, right? She got her little calculator out, and she was really funny, you know. She would say, Camy, oh my God, you know, and then of course there would be those weeks where she made like $2,000 because, you know, of course she'd have a great Saturday or whatever. And then I want to say about a year and a half into it, she made her $40,000. She came in all fired up, excited. She, you know, she won a trip to, I think she won a trip to Cancun or something like that. And she came back from that meeting talking about all the people that she met, and she did the math and she realized, I make more money working 1 day a week than, you know, essentially what she was doing, you know, apples to apples in terms of her time on her full-time job. So going into her second year, she ended up resigning from her her job. What was it? Girl Scouts. She ended up resigning from her Girl Scouts job and went full-time. And I want to say that she averaged over the next 2 years, she averaged about $85,000 a year, which was, you know, enough to pay her bills and put her kids through college. And she was working maybe 3.5 days. So she obviously had a lot more time to herself. And she was just ecstatic on life. She was high on life. One of my favorite people to be around. Now, if anybody wants to know what happened to her, true story, then I'll move on. So she came into my office one day and she had her leads in her hand and she had a look in her eye that I hadn't seen before. And I said, Shirley, what's going on? Are you okay? What's wrong? And she says, Camy, I hate to tell you this, but um, I'm done. You know, her, you know, kind of like right now as I'm stuttering, I said, "What do you mean you're done?" She says, I'm done. I'm resigning." I said, "What the heck? You know, why?" One of her appointments was a single man that asked her to marry him. And she said yes. And they were married 90 days after she wrote his policy. And I was pissed. I'm kidding. I was upset. But I was at her wedding. And of course, you know, she had my blessing. He was a great guy. But that was a 4-year run that she had. It started off with a desire to make some extra money part-time. So over the years, I've told that story because so many people fall in that category where they have a full-time job and it's just not cutting it. So if that's you, we have a system that can help you get anywhere from 5, 6, 7, 8 leads, 9 leads, whatever the income is that you need to make. It could be $500 a month that you need to make. It could be $4,000 a month that you need to make on a part-time basis. But if you have self-discipline and a strong desire to accomplish that result, we can show you how to do that. And we've got, before I move on to that second point, which I kind of already did that, I just wanted to see, was there anybody else that chimed in and said where they're viewing from? I'm sorry, forgive me. We have Virginia Beach, Binghamton, New York, Rochester, New York. If you click on the chat button, I just wanted to know where people were calling in from, or not calling, but you know, Florida. Okay. Can you be more specific? No, I'm just kidding. All right. So so that's part-time. Indy, I see you. Tucson, Arizona. Okay. Hey, Jeremy. Lauderhill. My very first insurance sale was off Oakland Park Boulevard, Elaine, which is not too far from where you are. How about that? So anyway, so part-time. And again, I say that simply because, you know, a lot of people are concerned, or they have, you know, trepidation, you know, they're afraid of, oh my God, I'll be working on commission. What if I don't make a sale? I understand. So I've always recommended people that they get involved, you know, part-time. I'm one of the crazy ones that just said, hey, I'll bet on me. Let's go for it. If that guy can do it, I can do it. And so that's the part-time deal. Full-time, guys, you know, one of the challenges that I've seen, and I'll say this, it sounds kind of weird to say, but one of the challenges that I've seen is I have hired people over the years directly full-time, where they either, you know, will quit their job, or maybe they don't have one and they're looking for something. But here's the category of people, Brad, Jeremy, that really concern me. And I never understood it. I'm not sure that I understand it now. But I'll interview someone that is making, you know, let's just say $50,000 a year on their job. And they're, you know, when I ask them, you know, tell me, are you working just, you know, 40 hours a week? Oh, no, man, I'm working, you know, last week I put in, you know, 55 hours, or, you know, some weeks it's 60 hours, whatever, you know, the case is. And I'll say, dude, man, if you're making 50 grand working 60 hours, you work those same 60 hours in the Equis financial system, man, you'll make $400,000 or $500,000 a year. And you say, whatever. But if I could show you how to double your income working that same 60 hours a week, would that be of interest to you? And they all say, absolutely, man. Listen, I'll work 100 hours a week if I can make, you know, whatever. And here's what happens most of the time. I don't know why. I want to say I don't care, but I kind of do. But they'll come in and they'll, instead of working that 60 hours or even 50 hours, they'll start working 30-hour weeks, 20-hour weeks, just doing the bare minimum that they have to keep their income. Now, I get it. You know, we all desire time, and we want to enjoy our lives and such. But when you came in and you said I wasn't making enough money, why would you work a third of the time to make the same amount of money you were making before. It just doesn't make any sense. And so this industry overall is for the full-time person that wants to go. And I'm not even talking about the Gail Hammonds of the world. Gail Hammond is, for those of you that are with, the company, you guys know Gail Hammond makes over $200,000 a year, and she works 3 days a week. I'm not even talking about the Gail Hammonds of the world. I'm talking about the average guy that had to work his butt off to earn a full ride scholarship. I'm talking about the person that goes to work every single day, gets their check and is living check to check and is trying to figure it all out. All I'm saying is this: from a full-time perspective, you have to understand that, if you get into a Ferrari and you try to drive it in first gear, eventually it's going to burn out. Eventually that transmission you're just going to burn the car out. It's meant to be driven fast. And people get into this thing called an opportunity, and they treat it like it's a job and they're looking for a boss. There is no boss. There's only guides and mentors and coaches that are here to lead you and show you the way and point the way. And it's a system, but you got to take advantage of it and push it to the limit and see how far you can take it. But it's meant to be driven fast. And so, from a full-time perspective, if you're the kind of guy, kind of girl that says, look, I'll bet on me, just show me the way, point the way, give me the tools and get out of the way. I'm telling you, from a full-time perspective, now I'll admit that I was not the best salesperson. Okay. I booked twice as many appointments as my peers just so that I could get the same result, because I really wasn't that good in the home. I was telling a story on a Facebook Live that we did at John's house at his kitchen table just last Wednesday, I think it was. And honest to God, I remember I was making a 6-figure income, and I met my buddy Bill Martin, who's currently our vice president of sales, and he lives in the Detroit area in Michigan. And I remember doing my presentation for Bill in 2007, and I thought it was the best presentation I'd ever given. And Bill looks over at me and he says, "Don't ever do that again." I'm like, well, what did I do wrong? And he ripped my presentation to shreds. I'm 6 years in the industry thinking that I'm rocking and rolling, and he did his presentation, corrected everything for me. But my point is that, I survived 6-7 years, and I really wasn't that good at presenting. And I don't know if it was because of just where I was in life. I was 25, 26 years old. I didn't have any kids. It was hard to relate, I was still living in a world where all that mattered was me. I just wasn't mature, but I could memorize a script. I could, read off of a document, but there was just that compassion missing. And I really wasn't that good. So my point is that, my $130,000 at 28, personal sales income, to me back then, that was everything. But the truth is that, if this is where you decide to plant your flag, you're going to be introduced to people that are making a heck of a lot more money than that. And they make it look simple, but if you put in the time and put in, the practice and just do it afraid, just go after it and stumble through it and do it fast, you can get really good fast. And this opportunity will pay you extremely well, way better than, anybody else can. I remember a mentor of mine said something, and then I'll move on to that third category. He was teaching me about systems, and that you have to understand that systems are designed to produce a certain result. And the system he was talking about was the job system. And real simply put, what he said was that employers pay their employees just enough not to quit. Okay, employers pay employees as little as they'll accept, and just enough that they won't quit. And again, these are all generalities, okay? Employees work hard enough to not get fired. So they put out just enough, energy and focus to not get fired. And that's the job system. And so you have to wipe that mentality completely away and understand that the the system that we're talking about, called Equis Financial, is a system that is designed to pay you in parallel, precisely in parallel to your work, your effort, your expertise, how well you master your craft, the sweat equity, all of it will have a return that you'll be proud of. So I hope this is making sense. So the third lane, or the third category of person, and by the way, I want to end talking about full time, that if I were, if I were you and I was ready, willing, and able. Now you have to be self-aware, but if I was ready, willing, and able, the first thing that I would do is get with the person that invited you and somehow, some way, get acquainted with the Equis culture and find out and hear the success stories. We've got some on YouTube. We've got some on the company page. These are real people. You know, guys like Andrew Pappas, who's slowly becoming one of my heroes. The guy went from making $35,000 a year to last year, I think $165,000 is what I heard. Incredible story. There's a girl named Deanna Cooper. I think she's out of Michigan. Don't quote me, but a couple $100,000 a year from making $60,000 to $200,000 plus. These are real people. And so I would find out how to get those stories, get acquainted with those people, even if it's just through social media, even if it's just through hearing their success stories, because I don't know, it plants a seed. And, you know, if you can believe for it, you can have anything that you work for. So anyway, all right. Lastly, as we wrap up with time, gosh, it's 9:30, I apologize. I'll be quick on this one. It wasn't my initial desire when I started. I just wanted to make enough money to pay the bills. You know, I didn't want a boss, and I wanted to be paid what I worked for. You know, I was that dog in the fight that had to have a lot of fight in the dog, right? I had to work for what I had in life. And so I just didn't want anybody to cap me or to limit me. So, but I really didn't see myself owning a business and leading an agency and, you know, training people. And, you know, I was a quarterback, so there was a little bit of leadership there. I guess it happened. I didn't even realize it was happening, but it wasn't my goal to build a business. You know, what does that mean? But over time, I realized the wisdom of interviewing, qualifying, and selecting. I realized the wisdom of helping other people. And so Zig Ziglar says, if you help people get what they want, you get what you want. And you know, that sounds great, but what does that mean and how do I apply it? Well, within the ecosystem, there is an opportunity for you, once you get good, ideally, you can start training people how to go make money. And because of that, these insurance companies, they build products, but they don't sell them. They don't distribute them. That's our job. So the more of a partnership you create with them and help them distribute more product, the more they pay. And so you become more valuable to the insurance company if you can train people to produce and move that product. Well, that makes sense. And so within our system, there's a way for you to create some passive income. There's a way for you to create some leveraged income by training and developing other successful agents. And there's no limit to how big you can do that too. And so I've got to, give a shout out to my mentor, Kight, because at 27 years old, man, that guy really helped me see a vision and a perspective that I didn't really have. And so at the peak of my agency, at least twice, I can tell you that we had about anywhere from 75 to, I think we crossed over the 100 agent mark a few times, and we were spread out about 11 or 12 states. And yeah, it worked. So if that's a goal of yours, and I know I'm speaking very, basic about that concept, but I'll be talking more about that, here shortly. But part-time to make an extra income to do whatever it is that you're needing to do, whether it's create a savings, go on vacation, pay some bills, put your kid through college, whatever the case is, you're just not making enough money. And you don't want to go work another hourly job somewhere and, lose your family in the process. I totally get it. Equis has a place for you. If your job sucks and you're not happy doing what you're doing, or you're just not, making the money you want to make in life, period, and you're looking for a better opportunity to create your own lifestyle, have time and money, and you just want to be self-employed where you have no limits on the amount of hours you can work and just increase your income and make a bunch of money and just have more flexibility, absolutely. If you have a bigger vision and dream where maybe it's a multi six-figure dream, maybe even a seven-figure dream. We had a guy I think he's in his early 30s out of Orlando last year that made $1.4 million with the company. 1.4 million American dollars he made last year. And him and his wife and baby girl were there. And, how cool was it to see that in a company that's only 3 years old, it's produced a guy making $1 million. There was a few guys that made over $750,000. My mentor made just shy of $500,000 in a year and a half. I mean, it's incredible. So that opportunity is there for you as well. So I'm going to wrap up by saying this. Our industry is highly regulated, okay? So you have to get a license. In your state, the rules vary in terms of the cost. The most that I've seen in any state is about $300. Where I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina, I think the total cost for the course and the background check and the test is about $150. So some states are probably less expensive than that, and I'm sure there are several that are more. I think North Carolina is like $250. But for a few $100s, you can get a license and essentially create a life and a career in the industry with Equis Financial that, people go to school for 4, 5, 6, 8 years and still don't have the prospect to do that. And so get with the person that invited you on this call and find out what you have to do. Illinois is $300. Thank you for that. Get with the person that invited you. Find out what you have to do. If there's any questions that you have, Brad, do we have time to take a few questions? I know we're going to do some training afterward for our team, but I don't mind answering a few questions, Brad, if we have a few minutes.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we got some time.
Brad says yes. Okay, so guys, this is bonus time. So if you have a question, Brad, where do I go to see the question? Participants?
Chat. No, right in the chat. That's where everybody should put their questions.
Okay, so if you have a question, and we'll, if there are none, fantastic, no big deal. That means I covered what you needed. But if there are, feel free to type your question in the chat box. What if they're on the conference call and not, or are there any people that are on the conference call but not on the Zoom?
Yes, we do have some of them as well.
Okay. How would you want them to ask their question?
They can text them to me.
Can you state your cell phone number, sir?
301-331-4522.
One more time, sir.
301-331-4522.
Okay, very good.
You got one from Ian.
The Ian Leonard from Illinois with a $300 license says, what is your biggest benefit that you use to find new hires? I'm assuming, Ian, what you mean is what tool would I recommend to find new recruits? Is that what you're saying? What recruiting tool is the most beneficial? I think that's what you're asking me. Is that a yes? Give me a high five or a thumbs up if I'm on the right track. There's another question. Feel free to. Arizona, Jeremy says 100. Man, I'm put an ad in Arizona. Only $100 to get a license? Jeez. As far as recruiting, for those of you that have, I think that's what you're asking, Ian, if you guys were wondering, everything works a little bit. There's no perfect tool for the recruiting, strategy. There's no perfect tool, man. You know, everything works a little bit. At the end of the day, it's no different than, you know, talking about leads. There's no perfect lead. A lead is a lead is a lead. You know, to name and a number and a reason to have a conversation. We just happen to have a bunch of them, and we've got some really qualified ones. But from a recruiting standpoint, Ian, if you're talking about building a business and finding agents, man, listen, I have a solution to 3 big time problems. It's people that want to make a part-time income that aren't making enough money on their job. I have a solution to people that just aren't making enough money, period, and are looking or not happy in their career and want something different. They want a career that they can build and be proud of and own. And I, you know, have an opportunity for someone that wants to build a passive income and leveraged income and utilize the system to help other people make money and grow themselves. And so with that solution, with those solutions, I'm just looking for people that have a problem that solution can fix. And so talk to people about the solution, and if they have a problem and you can help them, great. So, you know, whether it's, you know, I love recruiting at the kitchen table when I'm talking to people, because I've just built a relationship over the last 60 minutes. So we can talk about anything. You know, cold market, you know, ads. Yeah, sure. Why not? People that are looking are going to respond to it. But the point I'm making is that they all work a little bit. You know, they all work well, but none of them is perfect. I wouldn't not do any recruiting in this area because this one works better. No, I would do them all. Cast a big net. So that's my answer to that. I have found over my career, I've found winners really in every single place that I've searched. So good question, man. I'm assuming you want to build a business up in Illinois. I just hired someone in Chicago, by the way. Kiana in Chicago. She spent 10 years with Aflac. And so, yeah. Any other questions? Brad, it doesn't look like we have any.
No, I got nothing on text either, man.
Okay. Well, guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you heard what you needed to hear to make a decision about your career and get with the person that invited you. And I wish you the very best. If all works out, I look forward to seeing you in Orlando in August at our Winter Leadership Conference. For everyone else, we are going to do, we're going to have a brief training session in about 4 minutes. Is that right, Brad? Or in 60 seconds? I forget.
No, we only need to take a minute or two break.
That's what I said, a minute or two. I'm kidding. All right, we'll go back.